What's up, everyone? I'm looking for a place to try to fish my wake rat, a bull rat, affectionately known as rat-a-tat-tat. It's a bull shad bait by Mike. Bull shad rod, set up, all bull shad. Check this out though. Look at this. Look at the size of this tilapia bed. Step down in, it's like 1.5 feet deep. Look, here's some more. So I wanted to come on and talk a little bit about false equivalence. I've been seeing it a lot more recently, and it's kind of like an if-then scenario, right? If this happens, then this must be true, right? So one of the ones I've been hearing a lot about, I just had a conversation today with a local. If you have hydrilla, then you'll have big bass. And that's false. And what's happening is that type of misinformation is being spread all around. Limnology is the study of lakes, and we need to understand some basic facts and some basic limnology so we can disprove that false equivalence. All right, look, I'm going to pan this way. Look at this. Look how much weeds is in here, right? Now, let's do a true if-then statement. If you get too many weeds in your lake, then all your fish will die due to oxygen depletion at night. All right, that's some basic limnology. Even if the plants don't get to the point where they kill your fish population, they'll skew it towards all smaller fish. Actually, there was a good podcast I just listened to today on Tackle Talk. Can't remember the kid's name, but Andrew had him on. He was a fisheries research scientist up in Wisconsin, and they did a research project that proved just that. In Wisconsin lakes, if you had certain types of plants at certain density, it showed to help grow bigger bass. But if the plants got overcrowded, got too many plants, it skewed the bass population towards smaller fish. That's something that we've talked about many times. One thing to think about too is we have to understand that there's differences between Wisconsin lakes and Florida lakes, right? For one, there's a vastly different growing season up there. So taking the facts that we learned from Wisconsin and applying it in Florida is a mistake, because these places are very diverse. And that's a problem that I see a lot of, where we're taking a fact from somewhere and we're kind of manipulating that fact. If it's true in Wisconsin, then it's not necessarily true in Florida. Not to say the fact is wrong, but you just have to understand the variables in the lake. Like those Wisconsin lakes may be deeper, right? It depends on the lakes that they studied. Here in Florida, where the lakes are shallow, we definitely don't want to be introducing any plants, especially plants like hydrilla. That's an exotic plant. It's not from the United States. It grows crazy good, like wild. So here's another if-then scenario I hear a lot of. Orange Lake, which is actually that direction. If the Orange Lake's full of hydrilla, so they're making the false assumption that the hydrilla is creating the big bass population in Orange Lake. That's incorrect. Orange Lake, the big bass population, it's a new lake scenario. It's a new lake effect. The lake almost drained down 4 or 5 years ago, maybe a little longer ago. Excuse me. And we had Jason Dotson, the head biologist from Florida, on this podcast, on my podcast list. And he was talking about it. It drained down, almost dry, and then filled back up with some rain. No real difference there than the way we've draining and restocking ponds. So the if-then scenario that's correct is if a big reservoir drains down and then fills back up naturally, like Orange Lake does from time to time, then you're going to have some trophy bass production, because it's basically like a new lake. You got new lake effect, like if you just built a brand new lake. You'll see it. Another example of that is Bussy Break in Louisiana. That's a new lake. I think at about year 4, they broke every MLF record out there because of new lake effect. It had nothing to do with plants. It had nothing to do with anything, but they stocked the lake properly. It was balanced properly. It had new lake effect, and it grew big fish. So all these variables are really important to understanding. And that's the problem that I see on social media and television fishing, is all these variables aren't discussed correctly, right? And they're creating all these false equivalences. So look at this. See the size of this tilapia bed? You know how big a fish you have to get to have a bed that size? And if we walk down through here, I guarantee we'll find more, because I've been down this bank. Some of my neighbors come bow fishing down here for these tilapia. There's another one there. Here's another one here. Here's one here. Another one there. Right? And they got like 100 tilapia, 5 to like 8 pound tilapia with their bow fishing rigs down here. It's getting a little mucky. So we have to understand that there's a carrying capacity to the lake. Again, we're going to go back to our limnology lessons. The lake can only support so many fish. So if we have, say, 10 5-pound tilapia per acre, that's 50 pounds of tilapia. Well, a lake like this might only support 100 pounds of fish per acre. If 50 pounds are tied up in 10 fish, that only leaves 50 more pounds of bass, shad, shiner, bluegill, all the other fish. And that's how exotic fish species will displace your native species out. You see the same problems with common carp or Asian carp. You get so many carp that they just simply can't be fed upon by anything, and they displace all of our native game fish. So the if-then scenario is, if you introduce exotic fish species, then you're really messing up, right? Makes sense. It's really important that we understand all these things. Here's another tilapia bed here. There's one there. There's one here. 1, 2, a bunch. See? Oh, look at this one over here under that stump, under that blowdown. Look at the size of that bed. All right? So we can see the evidence of the exotic fish species. And if you talk to the old timers, they'll tell you around here, yeah, the bass fishing used to be a lot better in Rodman. And then they'll do their if-then scenario. Well, there's no more hydrilla in here. So the state sprayed all the hydrilla, therefore there is no more big bass. That's their false equivalence. Again, if you listen to the podcast we did with Jason Dotson, they didn't even spray this lake for hydrilla. It's this drawdown that they're doing right now, right? See how they're pulling the water back? It's the drawdown that got rid of the hydrilla, probably. Maybe some other reason. I'm guessing at that. But hydrilla doesn't like cold. So lowering it down and increasing the cold and freezing the bottom, if we get a freeze this winter, all right, that's going to knock the fool out of hydrilla. And if I was a betting man and had any money at all, I'd bet all of it. That's probably what happened to the hydrilla. It has nothing to do with spraying, because they never even sprayed it. But if you listen to everybody around here, they've sprayed the world away with, and that's why the hydrilla is gone. False equivalence. That's why I do this, to try to get accurate information out so people will stop doing that, and we can work together, because we all have to work together to manage these big public lakes. And they're not going to fix themselves. They're not, especially like a place like this. This is a reservoir. It's a man-made lake. Relying on Mother Nature to take care of it. I've heard many people say that. Just leave it alone. Let all the plants grow. You can't. Plants use oxygen at night. So even if we let it go past, say, it's skewing all the fish towards a small population, that's another on that research project that Andrew was talking about on Tackle Talk. They proved that in Wisconsin. If the plants get too dense, the bass population skews to smaller. That's something we've talked about and seen many times in pond management in Georgia and in the Southeast. You can't let the plants take over, or it's going to start messing your fish population up. And that's just a fact that nobody ever talks about because nobody seems to know it. I don't know. All we can do is just keep trying, right? Thanks for watching and spreading the word, managing our fish right. Appreciate you guys. Talk to you later.